Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, what can we say about the situation in Middle East? An occupier, aggressor, apartheid, oppressor, suppressor, and definitely the illegitimate state of Israel crossed all limits, committing unprecedented genocide, war crimes, and atrocities, not only in Gaza, but also in Lebanon. So far, according to the Gaza authorities, Israeli occupation forces killed over 43,000 of the innocent Palestinians and wounded over 100,000 people. Lebanese Ministry of Public Health says that at least 2,865 innocent Lebanese have been killed and 13,047 have been injured, while at least 1.3 million or more than 1.3 million people already displaced. Barbaric de facto Zionist regime attacking United Nations, Red Crescent, and all other aid agency workers. They have not spared even the journalists, the doctors, ambulances. They attacked hospitals and all educational institutions, even the temporary shelters. Children, women, elderly, and most of the patients were not even spared. No one spared in Gaza right now. Unfortunately, the situation is that winter is approaching, but there is no warm clothing, no blankets, no food, no water, no shelter, and even no medicine or treatment for any of the Palestinians living in Gaza. Right now, what is left is hunger, thirst, fatal diseases, rubble, debris, and obviously the brutal Israeli bombardment. De facto Israeli parliament just legislated and labeled United Nations Refugee and Work Agency for Palestinians, UNRWA, as a terror group. That was, or that is, the only hope left for Palestinians to have some kind of assistance. But that was attacked too by the illegitimate state of Israel. United Nations interim force in Lebanon is also under attack. United Nations Secretary General framed as persona non grata by the illegitimate state. Also, the International Criminal Court threatened, and International Court of Justice orders were already discredited. But no one there to make Israel accountable. Ceasefire efforts are still an illusion, while the peace is still a distant dream. Occupier state of Israel is keep on attacking beside Gaza, West Bank and Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen and Iran. And just recently, the Israeli attack on Iran, it seems or likely that Iran might respond. But it is astonishing and surprising that the international players are pressing Iran to keep restraint and given free hand to the illegitimate state of Israel to attack anywhere, anytime. This is a very grave situation. To discuss this situation, we have in our studios Dr. WASEEM ISHAQUE. He is the senior analyst. Most welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much for your presence. And also Dr. SAJID KHATTAK. He is the Mideastern affairs expert. Most welcome to you, Dr. SAJID. Thank you very much for your presence. And online joining us, FARAZ NAQVI. He is the head of Iran program at the Institute of Regional Studies, IRS. Most welcome to you, FARAZ. Thank you very much for your time as well. My first question is to you, Dr. Syed. How do you see the worst humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and even in Lebanon as the harsh winter is actually approaching? 90% of the Gaza population is already displaced multiple times, and 84% of the health facilities, 80% of the education facilities were already gone. Gaza, which was full of life once, now it's 26 million ton of rubble dump. People are in open or in temporary shelters, don't have food, water, medicine, treatment, or even the warm clothes. No blankets. Now Israel intends to butcher innocents by winter So how do you see this grave situation and the humanitarian situation which is now there in Gaza?
Thank you for having me on your show. I believe that the statistics coming in from Gaza and Lebanon are worrisome, and they are quite disturbing. In a short span of time, hundreds and thousands of people are killed, and even hospitals are not spared, schools are not spared, and refuge camps are not spared. And Israel has also halted the humanitarian supplies to the refuge camps in Gaza as well as now in Lebanon. Since you mentioned that since winter is approaching, so the the situation, the living conditions for the refugees will become more problematic,
volatile,
definitely. I think the present situation is worrisome, but the post conflict, even if somehow the war ends, given the worsening conditions, the post conflict situation will be more problematic, like for example the health issues, the post traumatic stress disorder, as well as you can say the psyche or the mindset of the young people over there will be affected for decades to come. To me, I think it is very unlikely to give some basic life conditions in the same environment. So it is important that the people, the effects should be transferred, should be transported to the regional, you can say neighboring countries, where they can be given some respectable, you can say living conditions.
But Doctor, this is what Israel required actually. This is Israel wants actually, that push all those people from Gaza and just have an empty Gaza over there, and then they are going to have their own designs to implement in that territory. So if that happens, because that was the prime reason that Hamas is not doing that, Hezbollah is not doing that.
You are right, but the thing is that those who are martyred, but to my belief, inshallah, they will be successful, they are martyred, they will be in paradise. But those who are left behind, the civilians, I think they have the right to have a dignified life. And in order to save the children from the ongoing war, because Israel is attacking them indiscriminately, they are not taking care of the, whether the
because Israel has the plan of ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian. It is not basically the self-defense, it is just ethnic cleansing, and that is already proved by all the UN rapporteurs and the International Court of Justice and all that. Your point well taken. Dr. WASEEM, what your thoughts regarding the UN rapporteur Francisca Albanese stressed upon the need to suspend membership of the illegitimate state of Israel due to the continued genocide against the Palestinians, committing war crimes, crimes against humanity in Gaza, and because no other country has defied so many UN resolutions for so long as compared to the de facto Israel.
Faisal, thank you very much for this program. I think it's a very important topic which we are discussing today. But unfortunately, the state of affairs what we see on ground is far more distressing than even what is covered in the news media.
Obviously.
Unfortunately, the state of Israel has actually is trying to reshape the new international order with the support of United States and the Western countries, who by themselves actually had set up the post-World War II international system. We have seen the Israeli ambassador shredding the UN Charter, standing on the podium of General Assembly. This is unprecedented. Then targeting directly on the personality of Secretary General, asking him to resign. Then calling him a persona non grata. Unfortunately, what all they have demonstrated is a disrespect towards the highest international body.
Obviously.
We have seen that they have ignored the ICJ's, all the advisory notes which they gave for the humanitarian situation in Gaza and not attacking in Rafah, and then overall providing the
lots of observations and 3 orders at least.
Yes. So in the overall context, what we have seen that Israel has proved to be a country which is trying to rewrite the rules of international order, which was and which is perceived to be a rules-based international order as professed by the United States. But what we have seen, these are the double standards. And unfortunately, just see up till now, just in last a year and slightly a month over, more than 50,000 tons of explosive have been put on Gaza. This is entirely together in the Second World War, and this is just an area of 10 kilometers by 5 kilometers. More than 100,000 innocent civilians, they are injured. More than 43,000 killed. Only the children are more than 17,000. So, this is the Gaza part.
And at least 15,000 are under rubble because the bodies were not recovered from
unaccounted for. And then more than 2 million displacements here and something roughly 1.5 billion displacement in Lebanon.
Yes.
And the way they have unleashed targeting the Lebanon's infrastructure, it has nothing to do with destroying or decapacitating Hezbollah. It is just decapacitating the state of Lebanon so that they are unable to recoup with their normal daily requirements.
Because Lebanon was already in economic crunch and unfortunately its economy is not on that par. So, that is, if that happened, Lebanon, it is unfortunate that Lebanon will not be able to cope up. Really.
And see the enormous kind of reconstruction now, more than 50 billion US dollar alone are required for reconstruction of Gaza, and the timeline is more than 2040 to say the least.
Definitely.
And thereafter will be rehabilitation process and resettlement process. So, at least coming 3 decades, the entire international community, when they cooperate together, maybe they are able to do something in Gaza to change the dynamics from what we are witnessing today.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Dr. WASEEM, when you were talking about the ICJ, would South Africa's filing 750 pages of the overwhelming proofs of Israel's genocide in Gaza to the ICJ recently, called the memorial, and subsequently any decision by ICJ, be of any sort of a change as the Israel rejected and ruined all earlier observations in the international court and continued its war crimes, genocide, ethnic cleansing and the atrocities through unprecedented bombardment, ground assault, target killing, starvation, no access to the medical treatment, repeated forced displacements and now by depopulation?
You see, what has happened that Israel was given an absolutely blank check by the United States and by its Western allies to do whatever they want. So, they have gone and they have destroyed each and every corner of Gaza, and they are trying to replicate, as their defense minister had said, that we will convert Beirut just like Gaza. And they have actually rejected and ignored all the previous advices of ICJ. But that does not stop all of us as the civilized society that we must continue and pursue our efforts, and so is the doing by South Africa. The ICJ should not be deterred by some of the arrogant remarks by the Israeli leadership. So, therefore, it is a binding on all the international institutions and those great powers and middle powers and small powers to join hands together to preserve the international system, which has been already eroded to a great extent.
You are absolutely right on that account, because as a human we have to knock the door time and again to have justice for the Palestinians and for the Lebanese as well and the rest of the countries who are in that region. When we are talking about Dr. KHATTAK, to what extent a United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 adopted in 2006 will be implemented along with 60 days ceasefire efforts now tabled between, it is assumed now, because Israel is not yet the part of that, but Israel and Lebanon, when newly appointed Hezbollah leader Sheikh Naim Qassem indicated green light under acceptable conditions, and the Lebanese PM Najib Mikati also welcomed these efforts, because earlier there was 21 days ceasefire proposals, but that was shelved or that was died. So, what would be the ultimate fate of the 60 days ceasefire?
I think there is no contradiction in advocating for truce or ceasefire, even for a short period of time or for a long period of time. But there are questions about this United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. Because that resolution was about the bordering area between Israel and Lebanon, and the United States, as per some reports, the United States is asking Lebanon to unilaterally declare a truce in that area, which in itself is a question mark on the very, you can say the spirit of the demand for a truce from the United States. We have seen that since October the 1st, Israel has suffered some unprecedented and some unexpected casualties from Hezbollah from that region. Some 70 Israeli soldiers are killed, and 1200 are wounded and they are under treatment, and also the Israeli civilian population along the border are displaced. So this means that Israel strategically,
you're talking about the illegitimate state of Israel's northern part with the South Lebanon.
Exactly. So I believe that there is this selective use of the United Nations Security Council resolution with respect to this bordering area between Israel and Lebanon.
So what do you think Hezbollah or Lebanon will going to accept this one unilaterally, because this is again going to be a trap for them?
No, I think it's not a question of accepting or rejecting this truce. I think everybody is in favor of truce and war, but I think there should be more emphasis on the implementation of the recent United Nations Security Council resolution which was passed in 2023, which basically asked for a complete you can say truce between the two you can say
it is not the question of 1701 only.
Exactly. I believe it is a selective use of the international law, and this also gave us a notion that overall international law and international system is used as a tool by the powerful countries to subjugate the less powerful. Because whenever it comes to, you can say, the implementation of the International Court of Justice ruling about Israel's war crimes, when it comes to the United Nations General Assembly discussions about the war truce or the United Nations Security Council resolutions. But
so you are talking about that in that sense the world must have to avoid the selective use of international law, and they have to adhere what the United Nations Security Council already passed the resolution.
My point is that there should be
the ceasefire, unconditional ceasefire must have to be
exactly there. My point is that there should be complete ceasefire in Gaza as well as along the Lebanon border, instead of having this selective you can say United Nations Security Council resolution which was passed in 2006.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Faraz, you were waiting so long for your turn. So how much Saudi Arabia's push for an independent state of Palestine is in a recently held 2 days meeting in Riyadh, along with 90 other countries and the international organizations will have a weight as this first ever alliance meeting was to actually advise the ways and means to have establishment of the viable Palestinian state in a reality. So how do you see this meeting in Riyadh?
Well, thank you so much, Faisal, for inviting me to your show. Saudi Arabia has been trying for quite some time that the Palestinian statehood should be established and that it would allow Saudi Arabia as well to foster relations with Israel, because the Palestinian issue in Saudi foreign policy calculus is sort of an irritant that prevents Saudi Arabia from fostering economic and strategic ties with Israel and other countries in the world. So what Saudi Arabia foresees is that if this conflict persists, it would have the detrimental impact on Saudi's vision of 2030, that is to diversify its economy away from oil. So we have seen that Saudi Arabia believes that the Gaza conflict has already been expanded into Lebanon, the country in which Saudi Arabia has substantial influence in terms of banking sector and economic segment. We have also seen Saudi Arabia being the part of Rafiq Hariri and Saeed Hariri group, which is the political party and the former premier of Lebanon as well. So Saudi Arabia thinks that the expansion of Gaza conflict into Lebanon would not be beneficial for its wider interest. Also, Saudi Arabia also believes that if this war or conflict persists, it would have the negative impact on India, Middle Eastern and European corridor, IMEC, in which both Israel and Saudi Arabia are the part, and which is a vital corridor that could replace the Suez Canal and other corridors, and would be a game changer in the region, backed by the US and the Western alliance. So in this regard, what we can see is that Saudi Arabia is eyeing to utilize this conference or summit for two purposes. One is to establish the Palestinian statehood. The other one is to enhance its status as the leader of the Muslim world, which is quite keen to resolve the crises that have been sowing inside the Muslim world. But the hidden agenda or the hidden objective of Saudi Arabia is to secure or safeguard its economic interest. That is why we have seen that there have been a huge voice that is coming out out of Riyadh that Palestinians should be given the
Faraz,
state.
when we are talking about it is more a rogue state than an illegitimate state. We are talking about Israel. Keep on attacking United Nations. It just legislated and labeled United Nations Refugee and Work Agency for the Palestinians, UNRWA, as the terror group. Intends to implement that law in 90 days. Wants to starve Palestinians to death. Israel already given UN Secretary General the persona non grata and demanded that he must resign, and deliberately killed hundreds of the UN staffers in Gaza, particularly attacking UN interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, discredited International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court. Do you not think that it is crucial for the United Nations to restore its real-time agenda and the charter for which the United Nations was actually formed, and right now the United Nations system is threatened by Israel? So do you not think that the United Nations has to assert itself right now in this situation?
Well, Faisal, it is not about thinking or not thinking. It is basically about what is the fact. Sadly enough, since 1945, UN has been activated only once in 1956 Suez Canal crisis, and the part of the reason of its activation was that the Suez Canal crisis was not backed by US or the Soviet Union, the then two superpowers. So in the case of superpowers conflict, or in the case of great power conflict, we have seen that UN had not taken any step to resolve those issues. In this current crisis, we have seen that Israel has the complete backing of US on the one hand, and also the Western alliance, the European alliance are standing behind the Israeli policies. So it is very sad, but it is a reality that UN could not play its part apart from rhetoric, because we have seen that in UN General Assembly there is overwhelmingly support of Palestinian statehood, but whenever those resolutions would put on the table on UN Security Council, it has always been vetoed by the US. So we have seen that despite the global attention towards the Palestinian statehood, despite the global focus and the global pressure, diplomatic pressure that Palestinian civilians should be safeguarded, the aid should be provided to the Palestinian civilians, women and children, and Palestinian statehood should be observed, nothing concrete step could be taken, largely because there is the great power interest that is behind this Gaza crisis.
So absolutely right on that point, because UN has to assert, Dr. WASEEM, whether it's not understood that illegitimate state of Israel wants its expansion from Jordan River or the west of the Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, a complete control over the northern Gaza at first particularly, and then the South Lebanon, to create a buffer zone and then move on to the Arab territories, or as an illegitimate state of Israel de facto finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, said in an interview recently that they want whole of the Palestine, then the Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt and other Arab countries.
Unfortunately, that's what we have seen, that Netanyahu's own standing at domestic level was absolutely at the lowest ebb. And this war is actually the war of survival, political survival for Netanyahu. So he has taken this challenge by bringing so much of devastation for Gaza, and right in the beginning, on initial days of this war, he gave his strategy, the future strategy for Gaza, that they would like to control the entire Gaza, starting from the river to the sea. And this is exactly how they have actually manifested it on ground. And also controlling the Rafah, controlling the Philadelphia corridor, and now also moving incursions towards the West Bank. So they are now in the process of consolidation.
Lots of annexations were already done in West Bank and the settlements and all that.
And see towards the southern part of Lebanon, if they have not been able to achieve the 100% objectives, but they have already invaded by about more than 70% of the area.
Obviously,
so
yes.
In that case, wherever they would like to stand on the context of ceasefire, they are not going to leave this area, as per my analysis, as they did in the Golan Heights. So, and the pattern of occupying Golan Heights and then merging with the state of Israel in the mid to short to mid term, they are going to do exactly the same pattern of occupying the southern Lebanon for quite some time, then having this entire Gaza as their ultimate control. Now, President Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu has already been portraying the maps of Greater Israel, and a lot of Israeli media and the Western media had already been demonstrating those intentions and those maps. So, at least I have no doubt.
So, you are talking about those. You are talking about those maps. So, when we are talking about particularly this aspect, what the de facto Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, is doing actually. So, Dr. Khattak, during the last address to the United Nations General Assembly 79th session in September, illegitimate state of Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu termed Syria, Iraq and Iran as curse and showed a map as well in his both hands, while rest of the Muslim world as blessing, and stressed the world must ensure the Iran not to have the nuclear weapons. But what about 2 earthquakes reported in different media outlets, or it was just a fake news from some of the Western media reported in Iran, controversially categorized as underground nuclear tests, while Iranian ambassador to Pakistan, Raza Muqaddam, affirmed during his talk with the media personalities and journalists, so that there was no place for the nuclear arms in Iran military doctrine. So, when Iran is reaffirming and time and again stressing upon that they are not going to, so why there is a propaganda?
I think it's the
and what about please highlight on that, the curse and the blessing thing.
Exactly. I think it's the same story that Israel and the United States was propagating against Iraq back in 2003, and they were saying that Saddam Hussein was developing weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
So similarly, I know it is very clear from Israel's point of view that they will not settle until they neutralize Iran in this ongoing war, because in the region it is only Iran which is supporting the non-state actors like Hezbollah and Hamas against Israel. So Israel's strategic objectives will only be met when they neutralize Iran on the same pattern as they did with Iraq. So this is the reason why Israel is trying to drag the United States of America into this war so that they can come in direct confrontation with Iran. But that would be very much dangerous for the region as well as for the whole world, because I am always of the view that whenever a superpower comes into a war, into a regional war, there are always chances in a multipolar world order that other powers can also step into that war. Because we have recently seen that Russia has supported Iran in defending its you can say space from the Israeli attacks. So if Israel successfully drags the US into this war, because I was reading Nancy Pelosi's statement with respect to US support to Israel. She was of the view, the you can say Speaker of the US Congress, she was of the view that even if the whole building of the US Congress collapse, one thing that will remain constant is the US support or its alliance with Israel. So this shows that United States is in no mood to abandon or to you can say put some pressure on Israel with respect to their policies in this war.
Yeah, definitely. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. When another question arises here, that soon after the Israel has a strike on Iran, there was a debate, a special debate in the UN Security Council. What's your analysis on that heated debate between Iran and the illegitimate state of Israel during recent special session? So, when Iranian envoy urged the Council to act upon the Chapter 7, the Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, invoke Article 39, 41, 42 and 51 to tackle crisis situation and establish peace and stability in the Middle East, especially in Gaza, West Bank and Lebanon, while making Israel accountable for what it attacked Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
I think I support the Iranian representative demand for the action under Chapter 7 of the United Nations and the articles you mentioned, because Israel used the same you can say articles to legitimize its intervention in Afghanistan, and they used the same you can say articles to legitimize their intervention in Iraq, because they thought that they presented that there is a threat to the world peace and it is important to have an intervention in that region. So Israel's actions in the Middle East, particularly their actions against Iran, definitely threaten the world peace. So I support it, but I am not confident that there should be or there is going to be any development with respect to these demands.
So you're absolutely right, because that is very important to clarify, because unfortunately right now the world system is totally in illusion. So Dr. WASEEM, do you not think that after Israeli strike, Iran is assessing now how much they had lost? Will definitely be calculating the political, strategic and the military cost of any possible retaliation against Israel in future, and the regional countries are also assessing where they will stand in case of further escalation. So do you think that the retaliation and the counter retaliation would be the possibility, or there would be no more escalation?
I think Iran has demonstrated a lot of strategic patience in the past. And even in the ongoing conflict, despite several provocations, we have seen that Israel has been targeted killing of many Iranian senior military officials and Hezbollah and Hamas leadership while inside Iran and inside Lebanon in the past. But Iran has demonstrated a lot of strategic patience and restraint. Even during the tit-for-tat retaliations in the past, Iran has been very calculative and very focused on just demonstrating its capability. However, the way it has been now portrayed in the Western media, and especially in the Israel, that a lot of damage has already occurred in Iran, probably the facts actually deny whatever my assessment and the investigation which I have carried out. The facts on ground are far more different.
That is more exaggerated.
More exaggerated. But on the Iranian side, the Iranian supreme leadership and all the Iranian military and civilian leadership are together in providing a befitting response, and I believe that the Iranian response this time would be significant, would be more precise and would be more destruction oriented, because unless they do that, they cannot reestablish deterrence.
Means you think that Iran is going to retaliate. They are just having, it is a matter of time that when they are going to, but they have decided to retaliate.
They are just weighing all the options, but for re-establishing deterrence and the balance of power in the entire Middle East, they have to respond in kind. And this response has to be much more effective and strategic effect oriented.
Your point well taken. We'll get more details from Faraz. Faraz, do you not think that for decades old rivalry between Iran and illegitimate state of Israel, which had been going on in the form of war of words and the statements and then the war through proxies, now slowly but gradually converting into a direct confrontation and could turn into a dangerous battle, as Iran says its response depends upon ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon? So do you think that it is either a statement like that they are going to respond, or it means that no response sooner but could be later?
Well, Faisal, I've been saying this for the last 5 years, that the shadow war between Iran and Israel have been transforming into a direct conflict between these two states. And we have also seen that in the case of Iran, Iran has adopted the policy of encirclement through the non-state proxy partners of its in the face of Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis of Yemen, as well as Hashdu Shabi of Iraq. On the other hand, Israel has replicated the encirclement policy by having some kind of sort of a partnership, indirect partnership with some of the Kurds, as well as having the close strategic partnership with the State Republic of Azerbaijan. This is how the both states are actually trying to encircle each other. On the as far as your second part of the question is concerned, I believe that Iran is definitely going to respond this time, Previously, we have seen that there is a gradual enhancement of Iranian strikes. When we compare the October 1st strike of Iran with that of April 2024 strikes, we have seen that October 1st strikes are far much precise, and they were far much carried out to inflict the damage upon the Israeli states. And as far as the optics are concerned, Iran has quite successfully targeted some of the military bases of Israel. The very fact that one of the missiles of Iran have hit just 500 meters away from the Mossad headquarters testifies that Iranian precision and Iranian capabilities there. But this time, what we have seen that Israeli strikes, though they are very much limited and measured, and some of the reports have suggested that they have Israel has been unsuccessful in carrying out its objective in its strikes against Iran. But the very fact that 4 of the casualties have occurred on the military side of Iran, and 1 of the civilian have also died in these Israeli strikes. So given these casualties, I believe that Iran is going to respond this time, and this time it would not be the showcase of their own responsibility.
What was really you were describing about that though the illegitimate state of Israel's attack on Iran was not fully mandated or something like that, that it was not much successful. But what's the reality regarding that whole episode happened, that at least there were media reports overall and what are coming on that 120 or more than 120 Israeli jets not only violated the Syrian and Iraqi airspace, for what the Iraq already gone to the UN Security Council for violation of its airspace, attacked there, then hit at least 20 targets in 3 provinces like Khuzestan, Elam and Tehran in 3 phases, destroyed radar systems, the air defense ballistic missile systems, its manufacturing, and then the different sites which are related to the military. 4 of the Iranian, as you have rightly pointed out, 4 of the Iranian soldiers and a civilian killed, while Iran says Zionistic attack was successfully repulsed. Missile destroyed and the little damage done, but not as a whole. So what's the reality? How do you describe that attack, what happened, and what would be the ultimate response of Iran?
Well, Faisal, I cannot say for sure about the reality, but what I can say is that optics matter. When the October 1st strikes of Iran were carried out against Israel, we have seen that those Iranian missiles directly hit the targets, and they directly targeted the military sites of Israel. On the contrary, when the Israeli strikes occurred the last Saturday, we have not seen such optics, and that is why we have seen that there have been a lot of what we could say the lot of narrative have been generated from both the sides claiming the victory. But we have also seen a report that is available in international media showcasing the Israeli defense minister that he is depicting some of the strikes have been carried out successfully to the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, but that picture, that footage claimed to be false. So that is why what I believe that the Israelis carried out, yes, you are quite right that 120 or 150 fighter jets violated the Syrian and Iraqi airspace, but did they carried out airstrike that would put or inflict more harm to the Iranian defense structure? I believe that it is not the case. Yes, the casualties happened, some of the sites were targeted, but as far as strategic damage is concerned, I think that is nowhere to be seen. Yes, the casualties happen, and that is precisely why I believe that Iran is going to respond this time.
Your point well taken, well described. Dr. Sajid, do you not think that after the killing of several Hezbollah leaders in Lebanon, a young lot of the resistance movement had given a great surprise to Israel actually, which Tel Aviv was not actually expecting, and it's by attacking Israel's de facto prime minister's residence, Israeli military's casualties, and the attack on the military installations, and Israel, which was attacking housing units in bordering villages in South Lebanon and intent to capture that land, now retreating.
Exactly, that's the case. I think there is no change in the strategic objectives of Hamas and Hezbollah with respect to even after the killing of their top leadership. The leadership in the making, they are of the same view, and they have very legitimate, you can say, claims about the sovereign state of Palestine, and they are fighting for their just cause. It is always, if you look into the history of Islam, we have always seen that the more you suppress and subjugate Muslims, the more they rise, to the heights of development. So I am very much confident that at the end of the day, it is going to be the success for those who are on a just cause, and all those who basically you can say are unjust or who are cruel or who are doing indiscriminate killings. They will have to face the music at the end of the day, because always at the end of the day the success is of the right people.
You are absolutely right on that account, Dr. WASEEM. After Israeli strike, the US asked Iran not to retaliate and show restraint, but Iran warned the United States and termed it that it's the United States which played a pivotal role in actually supporting Israel's genocidal war. Its actions to destabilize whole of the region, peace and stability, to rein in this illegitimate regime. No doubt it's true, but what this Iranian statement actually mean? Is it asking the United States to stay away from Israel and refrain from supporting it, or what? Or what do you think that what Israel actually wants to drag United States against Iran?
Faisal, what we have seen, the conduct of war by the Israel in last 1 year on account of Gaza as well as in Lebanon, we have seen that at every account since last 1 year, the United States has actually helped to maintain the war machinery of the state of Israel, and also providing its diplomatic cover all around the world. So in actual sense, the United States has been part of the war of Israel, war of aggression against the innocent people of both Gaza as well as Lebanon, and as well as the strikes against Iran.
And even the regional countries. You are absolutely right on that account. Thank you very much, Dr. WASEEM, for your presence here in the studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Sajid, for your time. And thank you very much, FARAZ, for being us with online and your very candid views. Thank you very much for your intervention. Viewers, as you have just listened, that the situation in Gaza, in Lebanon and West Bank is worrisome. And panelists has said that Israel is actually escalating and with this expansionist designs to have the new world order with the support of the United States at all fronts, whether it's diplomatic, whether it's military, whether it's others. Israel is unstoppable because of the Western support, and particularly the United States. Saudi Arabia wants to have peace, the ceasefire, and very sincere efforts by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt are going on. And they want also to have an independent state of Palestine, because this is the only solution. But unfortunately, Israel wants to drag Iran into an all-out conflict and wants that Iran must respond, and then there would be a huge retaliation or might be a huge war in the region. So the shadow war between Iran and Israel is already over. So there would be a direct confrontation if that happens. Hezbollah is fighting, Hamas is still fighting, and this whole scenario is now going on. But the Israeli genocidal war is also continued. So that must have to be stopped. There must have to be a complete unconditional ceasefire, and that must have to be happen when the international community, the United Nations, the Muslim world, they all have to assert itself, and they have to make this credible, because the United Nations credibility is also on question. So United Nations Security Council and the international community has to take the practical measures to not only make Israel accountable, but also there must have to be a unconditional ceasefire in the region if we want to save the humanity and save Middle East from a huge crisis. This is today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.